Good morning in the morning, America. Good afternoon and good night, Africa and Europe. So, today I choose a very interesting topic. And it's how do you handle a problem, right? How do we handle a problem? And the reason why it came about is because, see, there are times in life when I have a lot of intense zest for life, right? And I'm excited. I wake up early in the morning, I tackle things, right? And there are times when the same things, the way I tackle them, they have different outcome, right? Sometimes I solve it, sometimes I'm not, right? Life is that. Life, it is a game. And games, as we talked about it before, is composed of purposes, like where you're going, right? Your goals. Barriers, which is your quote-unquote problems. And freedoms. Those are the three components of life. And so when barriers get a little bit beefy, we tend to feel like, we're not moving in life. But what if I tell you that when we apply one way to tackle those barriers or problems, the results are a little different, right? And it's nice to know what are the 5 ways to address a problem, right? It's not to solve it, it's to address it, to tackle it. Okay, this comes from a recent course I'm doing on how to get motivated. Interesting, huh? I'm like, okay, good. I want to have that system. How do you get motivated? How come, many years in my life, I will just take up my tennis shoes and go running at 5 in the morning with high intensity and happiness. And how come some years or some months or some days, I cannot even wake up? I'm like, okay, something is not right here. So how do I do this? So I want to share with you these 5 ways to address a problem. Now, the first way, it will be you attack the problem. You might say, okay, Marina, so what is attack, right? What do you mean by attack the problem or attack the situation? Well, I want to read you a definition of attack that is the one that applies the best for this. It says to start working on something with a lot of energy and intention. Okay, so attack, start working on something with a lot of energy. Doesn't say mild energy, it's a lot, significant amount of energy and intention. So, you can work that way on attack, right? I'm going to leave the example of that to the last, but just keep it on the side of your thoughts, all right? The next way to address a problem will be to flee from it, to fly, to get away from it, right? And have you think about a time when the problem seemed too big and you're like, I'm running away from this. It's too hard, right? How many times we have something or even a challenge that it was so tough and we decided to run away? I give you an example. I used to go to school where a lot of the economics and political people and business people used to teach at. And there was one particular, the Minister of Finance, which used to give classes there, right? And he had hired a couple of the students, and I really wanted to work for him. He was fun. He was very, very intelligent. And at that time, I was a young puppy economist, and I wanted to change my beloved Mexico. So I wanted to work for him. So what did I do? I flee from it. I ran away from that. I decided that wasn't my target. How was I come about to ask him for a job? And I never tackled it. Guys, I could have had the job, but I decided, no, too hard to confront, running away from it, and I turned the other way, and I never thought of again back. I used to attend his classes, but I decided to flee from it. The next way to tackle a problem is to avoid. avoid the problem. What do I mean by that? To avoid. You're walking in one direction and you just go the opposite direction, right? Kind of like not totally run away from it, but you kind of move like a little bit, a couple of degrees away from it, right? You're avoiding. You don't want to deal with it, right? It's like, okay, go with your problem somewhere else. Let's see, take a look at a time when you avoid a situation in your life, a challenge, a problem. And what was the result? Do you have one? Okay, so I tell you one. I'm trying to figure out one where I avoid the situation. I remember there was a friend of mine who really, really, really needed help. I was with a lot of work and I couldn't help him. He really asked for help. He was struggling with his mother and his wife. So the months were by and then I'm like, okay, I avoided this situation. I need to go back at it. Well, next thing when I come back, there's no mother anymore and there was a big situation with the wife. Now, if I would have not avoided and attacked it, I would have sorted out. And the situation would have never happened like that. I give you a really, really rough example of avoid. My father called me. This is like 20 years ago. 22 to be precise. And I was with some friends having dinner, something like that. So I kind of avoid his phone call because I didn't want to get into like a talk in the middle of it, discussion, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to have fun with these guys. And then I'll call him tomorrow. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, too late. My dad committed suicide. That last phone call was my opportunity to handle him. Do you think I think about that moment so many times in my life? Now I decided, it's gone. The past is gone. There's nothing I can do about it, but I can do for the present and future. So, again, a little reminder to attack your problems, to address them with a lot of energy, to handle them with whatever tools you have, with the intent of handling things. So I'm telling you the story of my father because that point where I avoided that phone call give me a result that I could never go back to. Like that moment was gone. It turned into a situation. He was gone. Next day, I'm calling him, no answer. I'm calling him, no answer. Next thing, I receive a call for the news. So, okay, a little rough, a little dramatic, but just think about a time when you avoid a situation or a problem. Doesn't have to even be a problem, a situation, right? Doesn't become a problem yet. Or you flee, you fly away from it because it was a huge challenge. I'm trying to think about another example of flee, which is the second way of handling a problem, to run away. For some reason, I'm looking when I was a kid and running away because things were too big for me. Something about school. And I was struggling studying and I flee from it. I flee in the university. I just run away and get out and start working. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I flee when I was a kid. Instead of communicating to my parents that I was having struggle studying, I flee and I start doing sports or something else, but I never communicate. I need help here. I just run away. I locked down. I was sitting in the classes without being in the classes. I was just run away from it mentally. So there you have it. Later on in life, I handled that, but it took me years. Instead of handling it and attacking there and then, I had to go for decades without handling the problem on study I had. Okay, good. Number 4, neglect. What is neglect, right? How can you neglect a problem? Well, let's see the definition of neglect. So neglect is disregard, to pay little or no attention, something that you leave unnoticed. Like, okay, I'm not looking at it. So let's see. Take a look at a time where you neglect a situation or a problem. You know that you had it, but you neglect it. Do you have one? I give you an example. Sometimes we neglect the day-to-day things that we need to do, and they become huge backlogs in our life. You know, I give you another example. Really rough, but really real. I was very happy working. I love work. Because for me it's a game. And I start neglecting my marriage, right? Totally neglected. I had dogs, I had a husband, right? Really sweet husband, really, caring. And I neglect him. I start working day and night. And I was happy and I was having fun. I was doing this and that. But I neglected that marriage. And guess what happened next? The marriage becomes divorce, right? Because the other person wasn't happy in that. I was having everything I wanted. I was playing. I was helping. I was changing people's lives. I was doing what I wanted. But I had a little problem. I wasn't confronting and attacking a situation that started very small and it turned into a huge situation, which later on it turned into a divorce. So, give me a time where you neglected something, it needed your attention. And how that little thing turned into a bigger thing and a bigger thing until the whole thing became a flap. And then you really needed to handle something, right? Okay, that's the particularity of neglect. It's a baby problem or a baby situation, and it starts to grow until it is a huge monster at the end that you might not be able to control it. Or like fire, right? You can't put it off anymore. Okay, next one. Succumb, which is the worst one, guys. What is succumb? Succumb, right? When somebody succumbs, it's just like yield to something powerful. You just totally give up. You go into apathy. I can't do this anymore. You go into this victim mode. I can't do it. Everything happens to me, and then you're in apathy. You give up totally. Horrible, right? So take a look at a time when you were in a succumb, when you have something to handle, a problem or a challenge. Do you remember that? Well, I give you another example of mine. So, after my divorce happened, I was totally in apathy. I thought I couldn't do anything about life. Totally. I mean, not joke. I was about like suicide mode. And I mean literally. And I remember, being in my bed and couldn't get up. Couldn't get up. I was in a total succumb about life and livingness itself. Divorce had put me into such an apathy point. I dropped, my job. I dropped everything, right? And I couldn't handle that marriage, so it ended up in divorce. So what happened is I went into succumb. I thought I couldn't do something about it. Flunk, because you can always do something about everything, even death. So I couldn't tackle it. It took me so many weeks of just being in a total depression until I got an idea and I thought, okay, I better attack this on a gradient, right? Attack again is handled with a lot of energy and intent. And I thought, okay, what in the past have been successful for me to handle things that I think they're unsurmountable? And I thought, my little pair of tennis shoes, which have been my friends since I was little. So guess what I did? One morning, I say, enough of this. I got up, I could, on my knees, out of that bed, put one tennis at a time, open the door, and get out. And I started to do that on a daily basis. And guess what happened? I realized little by little that I could do something about little things first. Little baby situations or problems, right? I need to make money, Good. So succumb is the worst of them because it totally puts you into a mode that you will not do anything about it and you just go to die mode. Not joke. Why do you think people suicide? Because they fall into a point of succumb that they think they cannot do anything about anything, not even the smallest things of their lives. So life become a total overwhelm and they just decide to give up. So I'm going to repeat, there's 5 ways to address a problem, and I want to talk about attack now. So attack is number 1, which is to tackle the situation with a lot of energy and intention. Number 2 is flee, to run away from it as far as you can. Number 3 is avoid, totally going sideways so you don't have to deal with it, right? Number 4 is neglect, which you totally ignore it. Number 5, worst one, is succumb. Just die in front of things, right? So, which is the best way to tackle a problem? And why is that? So, as you can know now, it is attack. And what does it take to attack something? The first thing that it takes is willingness to handle it. Just willingness. Okay, I am willing to do something about it. That's number 1. Number 2 is sit in front of it or look at it and observe it. Inspect the different parts of that situation, which is confront. And then, guys, get in communication with that situation. If it's a person, if it's a thing, if it's a situation, by inspecting it, by getting and using and looking the parts of that situation of problem, you're communicating with it. And guess what? Number 4 will come, the solution will come. But that comes on attack, which you tackle with energy, intention, right? So give me an example when you tackle a situation in your life with attack mode, right? Tackle it with energy, intention of getting to do something about it. I don't care if it was the whole thing, but something about it you were going to change out of that situation. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's see. Attack. And then also take a look at the result of it. How did you feel? Did you feel bigger or did you feel smaller? You feel bigger, right? Because you say, I'm tough. I can do something about things, right? And how do you feel with the other 4 ways, which is flee, avoid, neglect, or succumb? Most likely you feel smaller, like you were smaller than the problem. And that's not a good place to be, guys, because you, believe it or not, have unlimited abilities and power. Little by little, you find out. As necessity level comes in, you display certain things and you're like, how did I do that? Attack, guys. Okay, so let's see an example on attack. So, attack mode. Well, one of the examples was the change of viewpoint that I had when I was in a huge depression after a succumb point, right? I can't do anything. I'm like, okay, I better start doing something about it. At least get the hell out of my house. So getting my tennis shoes on and getting out was a way of attacking, right? Intention, I'm going to do something about it. Confronting it, right? And then getting in communication with it and then sorting it out little by little. And that's what I did. And little by little, I went out of my depression, right? So it was through attack. Another way to attack a problem is, or a situation, right? Give you an example. I had a cross-country bicycle from San Diego to San Agustin, Florida. And I had like 3 months left. And I'm like, I'm not in good shape to do this because we were biking around 100, 150 kilometers a day, miles. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I need to do hills because, you know, you have mountains in the way of this beautiful country. So what did I did? I joined a biking club and I'm like, okay, I'm biking long. I don't care. The beginning, I was dying, guys. I was the last girl on the line. Then little by little, I had 3 months. So Monday to Friday, I was working, so I couldn't go out. So I subscribed myself to a biking, class, and I used to do 3 biking classes in a row. Like 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and then off I go and work. And on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I would go long rides, high heels with this, biking club. And by the third month, I was ready. And I did my cross country. Unfortunately, COVID hit and we had to stop by midway. So one day I'll get to attack that again to handle it to full completion. Let's see, another situation. I had a friend, a very close friend of mine, that got a stroke. And the medical community didn't know what to do about it, right? I mean, the doctors, the different specialists, the neurologists, the gastroenterologists, he lost his ability to eat, right? To walk. He had a stroke, very, very strong. Neurologists didn't know, the gastroenterologists didn't know if he was going to be able to eat or to drink again. I mean, it was very frustrating and I was going crazy. So I said, I'm going to attack this. I'm going to figure out a way to help my friend. And I went at it. People will say, no, you just have a certain, 2 years and the person will not get recover after that, right? So what I did is I just went into all kinds of therapies and find out information about things, right? Well, I am proud to say that in present time, this particular friend of mine walks, which he couldn't, talks, which he couldn't, eats and drinks, which he couldn't. And he's an outstanding being. He helps so many people. He's really a worth individual. Amazing being. Very, very strong. My point is, he attacked the problem. I was just a via to help him do this. But he attacked it. And now he has a really, really nice life. So, took us a couple of years, right? But he did it. So that is attack the problem. Sometimes, guys, seems that the problem is too high for us, but it is a disservice for us. Because at the end of the day, we are very powerful individuals. And we just need to look up, think big, do big, and have big in order to really create the life we want to have. There's no reason why we couldn't. Even when the environment of us around us is crazy and it tells us we can't, we're so small, other people are in control. That's false. Really, you can always do something about it. You need to have an independent viewpoint and mind about it, and you can always do something about it. So, given that we're really close on the, time in the holidays, I want to wish you a very, very amazing holiday season. And not only that, take a little time to be thankful for who you are, for the people that are around you that are really, really amazing beings, for those people that love helping others, that no matter what, they always have this viewpoint that the lives they touch, they make better because they believe in a better world, because they believe in a better humankind and a human race. And those people are the ones that make a difference. I want to read you something that is one of my best quotes. Somebody put it that Steve Jobs wrote it, but it seems that he didn't. It's something that existed before, but he took it. And because he was such an amazing being, we can give it to him too. So here it is, and it's dedicated to you. Here's to the crazy ones, to the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify them, but the only thing you cannot do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. To you, my beautiful friend, because you can change the world and worlds that you can never ever imagine. You are powerful and you can create a new world. Thank you.